Namaskar, Bharat. For the first time ever, we are hosting an MBA Times Fair event specifically tailored towards candidates from India. But if you're joining from any other part of the world, please feel free to stay because the frameworks can still be useful to you. The series of live stream that we'll go forward with will consist less of marketing like other MBA fairs do, but more of quality content that focuses on completing important sections of your MBA applications like resume, essays, and letters of recommendation, etc. Depending on the availability, we will dive deeper into the application of what we learn here by looking at the samples. So let's get to it. Today we'll be discussing the MIT Sloan School of Management. This is where you'll be if you manage to get in, and your odds are going to go up if you stay and watch the entire session till the end. And wait for a little surprise before we start looking at the samples. So let's put this image in the background to keep you inspired, and let's look at the agenda for the day. Couple of things before we look at the agenda though. First, you can scan this QR code that will take you to the WhatsApp group. This WhatsApp group will serve as a medium for you to ask any questions while the session goes on. And towards the end, when we will have live Q&A session, you can get those answered live as well. If you have questions later, you can stay in the group until you submit your application in round 2, and the group can serve as a medium to have your questions answered then as well. And it eliminates the biggest problem that we've seen many people have in the webinars, that their questions are not getting answered. And now we've solved this problem. Let's look at the agenda now. We'll look at what values define the school and the class profile, which will help you understand the statistical requirements and personality checks. So this basically forms the foundation on which your structure will be erected, which is your application. So these things are kind of important. So the basics are kind of where you should start. Next, we'll look at the essays and resume, which are obviously the backbone of your application. Sorry about that. We'll look at the LOR samples and I will give you the tips, and goes without saying that you will not be the one writing it. So you can share the sample with someone else who will be writing your LOR. It will also be shared in the same Q&A group, for which the QR code is right there. So you can scan that, and I'll come back to the slide in the very end if you need to see this. So by all means, you can scan it. If you don't, it's completely fine. You can scan it later. Now, looking at the motto, we seek thoughtful leaders with exceptional intellectual abilities determined to put their stamp on the world. This is not technically MIT's motto. That's something different. I think I've chosen this for one reason. That is because MIT says this a lot, that they're looking for people who really want to leave their stamp on the world. So someone who has this hunger, this drive within them, that I want to be known for something. And the moment I say this, if something popped in your head and you think that, yeah, this is someone who I could be, that's brilliant, because you have shown that you have that personality fit with MIT. Now, all you need to do is meet the statistical requirements, get to meet their unrealistic standards, and somehow make it in. So let's look at the class profile to meet those standards. The size is 450. This also includes the LGO candidates, by the way. I think LGO is a separate program. Decent class size, I wouldn't say too big, too small. The GRE median is at, I don't know what it is at, but like it's somewhere around like 324 to 328, I think, because the last I checked, that was the case. But they have not listed that on the website, so I really hope they do that. The GMAT median is listed, which is at 675 for the Focus edition and 720 for the Legacy edition. For the people who are from the overrepresented pool, like the Indian guys who are also from the engineering pool or something like that, I would recommend targeting 99th percentile on the GMAT and the GRE, because the requirements are much higher. So this is my suggestion based on the patterns I've observed. International student population is at 42%. So 42% means like it also includes the non-dual citizens also. So that's basically the idea that the dual citizens and the non-dual citizens are both included in this number. And I don't know what the purely international student numbers look like. The work experience is at 5 years on average. And if you're somewhere between the 3 to 8 years range, you should be fine. This was the class profile. And now we have the main stuff where we'll start with the keywords. What keywords define MIT? And keywords are basically the value system that govern what MIT is looking for. So the reason I use keywords is because this will help you brainstorm the stories. It will help you come up with ideas that this is who I am, this is what I'm about. And when you look at a keyword and if something, like I said, pops in your head, write down the story behind that, and that will form the basis of your application. So let's see what the keywords are. The first keyword that you can see on the top right is determination. Someone who is determined, because if you want to leave your stamp on the world, you have to have that level of conviction that you know that you are driven, you want to do something. Someone who is independent, someone who is capable of independent thought. This is a call to your individuality, that you're someone who is smart enough to figure things out on their own and doesn't constantly need help from others. And that kind of drives you towards the innovation side, where you're coming up with creative and innovative ideas. That brings me to the idea of fearlessly creative, which means that someone who wants to leave their stamp on the world needs to come up with creative ideas to do something in the world. So that's what I mean by fearlessly creative, that you have to have that level of innovation in your head that you can do something that will be appreciated by the people. Intellectual abilities. Well, we saw that in the first statement that we looked at, that they're looking for people with exceptional intellectual abilities. It is MIT after all. So someone with a good IQ, someone with a good score, obviously. So intellectual abilities are not something that you will be showing in your essays or your LORs. It will mostly be reflected in your GMAT score and also your resume. Someone with a foresight, someone who is thoughtful, true doer, someone who really wants to do things and is not just someone who's passive and just likes to sit back and chill. MIT is one of the few institutions left out which really wants people who are driven by something. So if you're someone who is driven by these keywords, MIT is the right place for you. So remember what I said. When you look at a particular keyword or a particular bubble in this case, what exactly is the story that pops in your head? Just write that story down, and that's how you brainstorm the ideas. That's how you make things easier for you so that you can create an MIT specific application. Moving on, we have the essays. So once we have brainstormed the ideas, we move on to the essays, obviously. So essays, the first essay is the cover letter. It's not giving you much space, but it's asking you for the world. So it goes something like this. So we seek thoughtful leaders with exceptional intellectual abilities, determined to put their stamp on the world. We already saw that statement. We welcome people who are independent, authentic, fearlessly creative, who are true doers. We want people who can redefine solutions to conventional problems. That's the creativity side, and strive to preempt unconventional dilemmas with cutting edge ideas, innovative. So that's basically what MIT is looking for. And now you have to keep this in mind and write them a cover letter seeking a place in MIT Sloan MBA program. And when you look at the sample that will be shared with you in the Q&A group, you'll be able to see how to structure this. But here's basically what they're asking, that give one or more professional examples that illustrate why you meet the desired criteria above and be addressed to the admissions team. Great. So that's the question. It's one long question. Okay, let me take a breath here. So first thing, understand how to tackle this question first. This question is basically asking you, why exactly are you a right fit for MIT? In short, that's basically all. And in exchange for that, they're asking you to give a previous example from a past life. So I'll give you an example. Let's say you're someone who is working for a tech company. Working for a tech company, you have done great things. You've worked with teams, you've done all the kinds of stuff that you can. But once you gain the leadership opportunity, you were actually able to do something truly exceptional. Like if there was something that was being followed in the norm, there were some systemic problems that you tried to address. Maybe you kind of created a completely new system on which now everything else works much more efficiently. That is a form of a cutting edge ideas from an employee's standpoint. because you were working for a tech company. So you, at the tech company's level, were able to create something which was a solution to some conventional problems and some things that were not working as really as well, and you were able to do something like that. Now, that's an example you want to write down. So the way to structure this argument is very simple. You write down the situation. What exactly was the situation? You write down the actions and you write down the results. We call that the SAR format. If you attended the previous session, you know what that means. So situation first. How did you come across this whole inefficient system that created the whole issue? So while working, you kind of, while also working with the team, you realize that there were some inefficiencies which, if fixed, can actually create an entire system which will help the organization be much more efficient and make more money out of that, obviously. So let's say you decided that you could talk about these things to the leadership, with the leadership. So once you have the conversation with the leadership, what were the actions you took? Bringing people on board for your ideas, that is negotiation skills, obviously, will come into the picture here. You have to create the whole place so it also shows some intellectual ability, something that shows you're independent and you really want to do something, so it shows that you're putting in the effort. Then you come up with the idea that we'll deploy this and work together to make this work. So this is also again some sort of skills which are like delegation, right form of leadership skills that MIT values. So this is the way you communicate that. And once the actions are taken care of, what exactly happened when you deployed the new, more efficient system? Was it remarkable? Was it something that was something that the company has never seen in years? Exemplary, like, you have to exaggerate that so much that like it looks like the biggest thing in the world, even though it was very small. So that's one example where you have to write that down in the SAR format, and that will give them an example of how exactly you meet the desired criteria for being a true doer. And then close by saying that at MIT, this is what I plan to do, and this is what my goal is. So while immersing myself in the community, I'll probably use XYZ resource, but I don't think, given the story, you will get as much time. So just focus on why MIT is more aligned with what you are as a person. And MIT will not give you new abilities. MIT has already said this, I think, in one of the webinars I attended way back in the past. So MIT doesn't create skills in you. MIT amplifies that skill that you already have and gives you the platform to have this global impact. Because MIT is known to be a global impact institution, and you are someone who can have this global impact. So why not? Okay, so that's the idea here. I've given you an example from the working standpoint. There can also be examples from the entrepreneurial standpoint where this impact looks significantly bigger, because entrepreneurship gives you complete freedom where you can do whatever you want, and if you manage to do something good and the world loves it, then you become something big. So that can also be taken as an example. But since most of the people who are applying are working professionals who are not entrepreneurial, they can be entrepreneurial, but the proportion of the people who are doing that is much less. So that way I've given you an idea on how to tackle this question. And when we go to the Q&A group, the link has already been shared with you guys, I think. So we'll look at the samples then. Essay number 2 is the background essay, which goes something like this. How has the world you come from shaped who you are today? Please use this option to share more about your background. So biggest mistake that people have made in this is they like to whine a lot about their life. So this is not a place where you vent or whine. Focus on how your challenges have developed your personality and how they have made you a true doer that MIT values. Someone who's action oriented, someone who is very ambitious, that's so ambitious that they want the world to know who they are. So that ambition needs to be developed from your background. That's why they're asking this. What is your motivation and what exactly is your life like? So that's basically the idea. And like I said, everything in your application has to be aligned with the MIT keywords that we discussed a few slides back. So align everything with the keywords of MIT, specifically to MIT. And if your life events, like I said, when you look at a keyword and if a life event pops up in your head, that's exactly what they're asking for. This is what this essay is for. So try to put those things across. And those things will be valued. Not that my life was too hard because we grew up in poverty and all that. It's fine. I sound very like, you know, unbothered by that statement. But the thing is, it's not a place where you are supposed to be sensitive. It's a place where you're supposed to do something for your application. So the space is limited, the word count is limited. So why would you waste that space saying something that is not aligned with MIT? It's fine you grew up in poverty, but what are you now? Why are you at MIT's doorstep? Do you have those skills that MIT seeks? Are you a true doer? Are you someone who can actually become something so big that the world will remember your name? That's what this question is about. Focus on the non-traditional aspects, not the general stuff like the academically, I was really good. It's fine, it's all good. We are happy for you, but don't really focus on those things. Focus on your personality development, and that's all that matters. And align that with the MIT's keywords that we've discussed a few slides back. Essay number 3, it's basically like video essay. So this one is actually a good one because it gives you a chance to show your personality by actually being on a video. So introduce yourself to your future classmates, and here's your chance to let your personality shine through. Be conversational and be yourself. And the second one is a random behavioral question. We'll get to that later. But the first one is the intro question. So you start with your personality statement. What is a personality statement first? Personality statement is your own value proposition. So if you're an entrepreneur, I think you know what a value proposition is. But for others who don't know, whenever a company launches a product, they have like a one line statement about their product. What exactly is that product about? So that is exactly the same principle you have to apply to yourself. So you make yourself look like a product. And what exactly are the features of this product, and what is the personality of this person who you are actually looking at? And I know I have used the word true doer and someone who is ambitious a lot. So you have to subtly indicate that. You don't have to say that like right in the nose. So you have to show yourself as a collaborative person who has this drive to become something. But how exactly do you do that is entirely up to you. So if you want to understand what value proposition you could come up with, you can look up some value proposition of some random products, like there's a shampoo bottle, for example. So shampoo bottles can have different companies that are providing those shampoo bottles. So what exactly are they saying is the value proposition? So like I said, it's very specific to India, so I'll use Head and Shoulders for example. They really publicize themselves as like something that eliminates all kinds of dandruff. Head and Shoulders, that's how the name came to be. So that's how they positioned themselves initially, and then obviously there are multiple variants of that. So that's one thing. Then there is the Sunsilk, which was, I think, a very popular brand. It's for silky hair. So a shampoo that gives you like a shine in your hair. So something similar to that. Like, what exactly are you as a person? So basically, what value would someone hold of you? That's basically the idea behind personality statement. It has to be one line long, not too short. That's basically the idea. One line personality statement of who you are as a person. Then talk about your passion. What exactly makes you passionate about your goals? It's about your goals, the professional goals. In the long run, what exactly is your purpose in life? If you say that I want to be a consultant, no one cares. That's not your purpose in life. Your purpose in life cannot be that you'll just be a consultant for the rest of your life. Why do you want to be a consultant? What drives you to become a consultant? Maybe you saw that you're someone who likes helping other businesses succeed. And that gives you that satisfaction that you're helping someone move in the right direction. That's good. But is that an MIT specific thing? Is that someone who an MIT would say is like, will people remember their name, or will people remember the name of the person they helped instead? Because you're helping someone else succeed in their business. So you have to think in that direction. Is your passion well aligned with MIT's passion? Because that's how your application will be evaluated by the admissions team. They are thinking, okay, this person wants to leave their mark on the world, but this person says that they are just going to help others succeed. What about them? What is their passion? What exactly will they be known for? So people who have these social causes, who are supporting some things like child rights, for example. In India, we have Kailash Satyarthi. sorry, I said that name wrong, but someone who is known for like the rights of the children. That's one thing he's known for. That's his passion. He's following that. He's also making money out of it, I think, a little bit. But obviously, we live in a world where we need a little bit to survive. So there is that aspect of him where he's following his passion. He's known for that one thing. He has left his mark on the world. I think he also won the Nobel or something. So there is the person that MIT would value. Yeah, this person believes in something. This is his passion. This is what he's known for. And that's what he is. So that's the passion line. There should be about 2 or 3 lines, no more than that, about what exactly defines your passion. Then you highlight why exactly do you want to join MIT? Why exactly are you showing them your face now? And that's the mean way of saying it because MIT is literally saying this question in their heads right now that why exactly are you applying to MIT? Is it just because of the brand? It's fine, they know that, but what else? So, what exactly are the resources at MIT that you really plan to use while you're there? So, it's good to show that future planning, that you have the foresight, and foresight was a keyword, remember? So, if you remember the slide, you remember that foresight was a keyword. So, why do you want to join MIT? Pick a resource and talk a little bit about that. That I intend to utilize this resource. How did you learn about that resource? Why exactly is that resource important to you? How will you utilize it while you're at MIT? That will take about 4 or 5 lines and end with your name and a note for them and your future classmates, for example. So if you remember like the Transformer movies, the person, the Autobot, Optimus Prime, he says a whole long lecture and then in the end says, and my name is Optimus Prime and blah blah blah, whatever like that. So something in those lines. So if you end it with your name, it looks a little bit more impactful, that my name is whomever, and I intend to join a class of true doers who are willing to help each other succeed in their ambition to become something in the world. That's a very good statement. That's a very good closing line. And you've said your name in a way that comes at the end, not at the first, so that like it kind of looks different. Also, it looks unique, and you've made a clear statement of who you are as a person. So that's basically the idea behind this introduction question. And then we have the behavioral question. So simple. So the behavioral question is supposed to be answered in the STAR format. STAR stands for situation, action, situation, task, action, and results. So it's basically the same thing, but we have added a task here in the SAR format. So task is basically what exactly is your task as a person in that particular situation. So that's useful for professional interviews when you're answering this question. So focus on skills better aligned with MIT keywords again. So I know that these questions will be a surprise. So the behavioral questions are a surprise. But if you look at certain forums online, you will have an idea of what kinds of questions could still be asked. And try to think of stories that are better aligned with MIT keywords. That's why I asked you that whenever you look at the keywords slide, I want you to think about stories that pop in your head when you look at a particular keyword. That's it. And that is all you need for MIT's application. And those are those stories that are already in your head because you've gone through those experiences. So just focus on those stories and how exactly are those aligned with MIT. And keep your actions aligned with your own personality statement, like your brand. What exactly are you as a person? And we'll discuss the brand a little bit when we go through the resume also. So you will have a good understanding of what it means to be a well-branded person. That completes the essay section. Now we have resume. Usually I need a resume in front of me to guide people on this, but since you will get the samples in the WhatsApp group, the Q&A group, I mean, we'll just start with the format of the resume, and for that you should remember just one acronym, which is FCQBG. And F there stands for format. So resume obviously needs to have some important sections like your name, your email address, phone number, and if possible, your LinkedIn profile link. This usually is followed by like the employment section, education, and extracurriculars. So while there is no specific format, I believe the only the most important section should be kept on your resume. The space is limited and you only have one page. So if you're saying something that should not be said, you're wasting space. An example of that would be, I know a lot of people are coming from tech industry and are applying to the business school. They have lots of certifications in the industry that they have worked for. But at the same time, when they're applying for the MBA, they're talking about what languages they can code, like C, C++, Java, etc., and all that. It's not very impactful because it has nothing to do with the MBA or your post MBA goals. If it does, it's fine. But if it doesn't, then you can remove that because it's an unnecessary section. And it is also considered based off real estate. Real estate mean the space you have on the application. So that's my suggestion. Just keep the most important sections, which are more relevant to your post MBA goals and the MBA program. Then education must list your bachelor's or master's degrees and not or and your master's degrees and a very short bullet on what your extracurriculars were during your time there. So the purpose of this section is only to see if you will be involved in a similar capacity when you're in the business school. Be intentional. If you ever attended a business school session, you already know that they say the past activities are a great reflection of your future. So that's what matters. You have to show that you were involved in certain clubs, you took up the leadership position, what were the changes, you're a true doer. So, what exactly were you involved in? They want proactive people, and this is one way of showing proactiveness. Then I got a lot of questions about how to write your employment if you're also a part time business owner. It's perfectly fine to create separate sections. I have already ensured to put that in the sample so you can see it when we get to that. Next, we have consistency. Consistency basically means that consistency in the format of your resume bullet points, not just any consistency, because the bullet points can be structured in any way. And most popular industry format is the PARS format, PARS, which stands for problem, action, results, and skills used. As the acronym already suggests, you start by defining the problem that you're trying to solve. It could be engineering, marketing, sales, revenue generation, whatever you're trying to solve, so that your company can succeed. Then you move on to define the actions you took to solve the problem, and then what results came out of that, and what skills you used. So that's basically PARS, problems, actions, results, and skills. So focus on your people skills because that is what matters for the MBA. And then PAR is basically PAR, which is basically just PARS format with skills section removed. And it helps shorten the bullet, but the skills are blended into the actions. RAS basically stands for results, actions, and skills, where putting the results first helps you make the impact come first. And in case someone is skimming through your resume, they can get surprised and even more curious and how exactly did you have that impact so they could read more about it. So that is the differentiating factor about the RAS format. So PARS, PAR, and RAS. There is no preference for one over the other, but I must tell you that you should not mix them all in one resume. Only one consistent bullet format per resume. So parse, par, or RAS, or not and. So just one per resume. Moving on to quantification, which is Q. Most sort of in the MBA admissions industry, your bullets need to be well quantified. Well, what does it mean? Your quantification needs to happen in the impact, which is the results. But while quantification is usually more or less mandatory in the impact, it would not hurt to mention the size of the team you led for the particular incident to further make the bullets more powerful and a little bit more credible. If you think you don't know how to quantify the bullet, for example, it's completely fine. Just sit down and think about why you exist in your company, because there has to be a reason. That's one thing. And even if you can't think about it, think about how exactly is your company using you to make money. And then the thoughts will just start flowing in your head that this is how my company is using me. This is how much money they're making, but I'm making this much. So, like a lot of people have this natural tendency. So, that's fine. You can like start quantifying that stuff. And as it says on the slide, you can highlight operational efficiency, revenue increase, sales, etc., with numbers, percentage, or cash, depending on what you did. Just remember that you need to enter the currency of the country that you're applying to. So for MIT, it would be US dollars. I can understand that because of the purchasing power parity and the exchange rate difference, the converted amount may not look so big in dollars. So you can also accompany this with a percentage change in something so that you can show a greater impact. And admissions team has a good idea of how this works. Moving on, we have the B, which is branding. So I say this line a lot. A hero can rarely be a sage, and a sage can rarely be a rebel. And I say this because all three have different personalities. A hero is someone who steps in and takes the responsibility for the people and solves their problem to rally people behind them. A sage is someone who shares the wisdom and helps solve that wisdom helps solve problem and people rally behind them because of their intelligence. A rebel is someone that disrupts the status quo by creating something completely different from what used to be. And their rebellious attitude is what attracts the people along with their uniqueness. So people rally behind them because they were too frustrated with the status quo, or maybe they are too attracted to that uniqueness. So all three different personalities, all three can fit into MIT because all three are doers, all three are problem solvers of some sort, and people are still following them for some reason. So what exactly is your brand? So that is the thing. What exactly is your brand as a business leader? And it needs to stay consistent in your essays, resume, and LORs. Now, why do I say that? So essays, resume, and LORs are the three components which carry the most weight right after your statistics. So once let's assume that your recommender has said something very positive in the letter of recommendation and has said something very well about your brand as someone who is very knowledgeable, someone who shares the knowledge, someone who works collaboratively with others, very positive stuff. But at the same time, in your essays, if you're showing yourself as a rebel or like a hero, which is not sage like quality, so it becomes misaligned, and the business schools want that alignment of essays with LORs because they are confirming your essays through your LORs in a way that if your brand is matching what you're saying in your essays is matching the LORs in terms of who you are as a person, that's what matters to them. And if that is not the case for you, then the rejection will not be that far. So ensure that you have a consistent brand. What exactly your brand could be can be defined from the branding matrix. If you Google this term, you will come up with something. So that will be the way to deal with this. Like brand yourself well and make sure that you carry that brand in all three. G now stands for goals. And it's the most overlooked part that you're forgetting that resume needs to contain transferable skills more relevant to your post MBA goals. Now, here is how you can modify your resume to meet those requirements. First, take the industry. Let's assume you want to be in technology industry. Then you have to narrow that down by function. So let's assume you want to be a product manager. Then the target company, which could be Google, Microsoft, whatever you want. Just pick one. And then school's feeder location, you can think about West Coast maybe. So like the Bay Area companies. So then you just use this information, put it on the internet and look at the job description of what your goal is. Once you have the job description in front of you, try to see what key skills they're looking for in the candidates and if those skills are matching your bullets, and then plug those skills in so that it shows some alignment with your own personality. Pretty simple, but a better way of dealing with this would be to use generative AI tools and tell them to give you the overlapping keywords by putting your bullets in there and also like the job description and see what exactly can happen. So that way you are getting more overlapping keywords. So remember that you are just using AI as a tool, not to create the resume bullets. You're just using it as a tool to get the overlapping keywords, not to reframe the bullets, not to create the entire application, just as a tool. So that is allowed actually, because using of internet is pretty much the same as that. So this completes our session for MIT Sloan. And a little announcement before we move on to the Q&A session. MBA Times is offering the Hail Mary service at a discount of 50%. So you'll only have to pay $250 per school to get personalized one-time feedback on your whole application from resume and essays to extracurriculars. Every single thing, all in one-time feedback, and you can submit your application after getting your application like a sanity check of a sort. So you can use the code MIT Mega Fair 2025 to avail the offer. Bulk discounts are also available should you opt for it. The website will have an option to select the number of schools. So you can scan this QR code, which is on the screen, and it will take you to the website. Alternatively, you can also visit MBA Times by going to www.mba-times.com/quote to request the quote yourself. And this offer is limited to the people who have attended the fair and are the registrants. So make sure that you are registered and also attend the fair. This live stream will stay up for, I think, 24 hours. After this, I can't guarantee if this will be available. There will be a summary, although, for all the slide decks, but it will not have my wonderful voice, wonderfully ugly voice, if anything. So I hope you guys enjoyed the session. I'll end the stream now, and I'll see you guys in the Q&A chat.